Russian princess or pirate dies, there's always bloody foam.
Hello, and welcome to the Goat American Novel. This is Myra Grass. You may remember me from my recent expose on This American Goat about shoddy building practices from little pig contractors. Bricks, my eye. Well, welcome listeners to Season 2, Episode 7 of the Goat American Novel. I'm not sure how this restraining order works. That's the name of this episode. That last episode was great, wasn't it? It was real cat-heavy. Do you remember? Grazzo was doing chores. He found Pearl in the root cellar and got Layla to kick the squirrel out of FM's cabin. And that's what I like, a cat-forward episode. Or maybe you don't remember the last episode, because it was so long ago. Yes, creator Hildy Westerly has been busy preparing for the first Goat American Novel live show. So, if you are in Bellingham on June 7th, 2025, don't miss it. Come and join us at Village Books. I can tell you, I'll be there, and I'm hoping that maybe I'll run into Ursula and Aaron, and we can straighten out these nasty rumors about me leaving goat droppings in the studio. I would never. Preposterous. I suppose if Ursula and Aaron were here now, they'd tell you, as they always do, to start at the start. This is a serial podcast, and you'll be lost in the action if you just leap in now. You might find yourself a little lost in the action anyway. Which brings us to content warnings. Once again, the nanny goats are in the drink. Yes, this episode features drunk goat humor. I'm not sure why Hildy finds it necessary, but I suppose it's part of life. Yes, the nanny goats are drunk, and once again, it's up to Grazzo, a cat, to continue his spooky supernatural mission. Tonight, he'll seek help for the kids trapped in the barn. About time, too. By the way, if you are a kid without an Instagram account, good, stay that way. Enjoy your afternoons of galloping in the fields and snacking on blackberry vines. However, if you or your parents do find yourselves in front of a screen on a rainy day, there's some fun bonus content on Instagram right now if you visit @GoatAmericanNovelPod. In fact, I may have helped Hildy write some goat and cat-themed puppet shows. You'll just have to see for yourself. I don't know about you, but as I head into a new episode, I always try to embrace the power of meow, as described by Eckhart Tolle. Or is it Tabé? I never know how to pronounce it. Please enjoy.
At some point, not long after Arcturix had fallen asleep, Sawyer decided to give up on the yearlings who had settled down to sleep amid the ruin of his mother's hayloft. He struck out in search of other goats. It was miserable out and showing no sign of letting up. Sawyer knew better than to go back to his mother without having rounded up all the goats. He ran blindly around for a while. He checked the goat barn again, but still only the ancient goat was there in her white lace undergarments. He ran around the orchard, the watering troughs, the other neighbors' sheep pens, the mule pens. Nothing. It was only when he circled back to near FM's cabin that he heard a bleat. A muffled bleat. A bleat that was somehow wrong, like it was sideways. He broke into a trot. Something was very wrong with the goat who made the bleat. He heard more bleating, more goats at once. His heart lifted. Surely there was something wrong about this bleat, but maybe all the missing goats were in one place. Maybe they were all simply trapped in an overlooked outbuilding. Around FM's cabin he ran, following the rising chorus of goat noises. There were a lot of them, somewhere. There. He came upon the little shack where the pig food was kept, and sure enough, the door was open. He ran headlong into a screaming riot of bleats and a thick aroma of fruit liquor.
I got friends in low places where the whiskey drowns and the beer chases my blues away. And I'll be okay. And I'm not big on social graces. Think I'll slip on down to the oasis. Oh, I got friends in low places.
It's the chupacabra! Liz Oates screamed at the intruder.
What's going on?
Asked the human Billy, breaking into the party and fumbling for a pull string that switched on the bare overhead bulb. Protested the nannies in thick voices. He made the sun come up! Screamed Butt Midler. Oh, it wasn't the chupacabra after all, Liz Oates muttered into the barrel. Any minute now.
What's going on?
The young man repeated in a screech at them.
Have you all? What have you gotten into?
Burp. Lady Baba belched a luxurious cloud of the raw materials of cherry brandy vapor, then swayed on her feet and fell over. She fell. Exactly. Sawyer stormed over to them and dipped his pinky finger into the barrel they were gathered round, and he took a long sniff.
You're all drunk.
Mama Chi-Chi glurped loudly, then looked the young human over. Young buck, I've been to 12 billies. I'm a judge of them, you might say. And I must say, son, you won't father hundreds. Liz Oates and Butt Midler exploded into bleats that sounded like giggles, even to Sawyer's uncomprehending ears. I fell into a pie, Lady Baba said from the ground. She fell into a pie. A blackberry pie. Blackberry? Blackberry pie.
I'm taking you back to the barn.
The young human reached for the nearest goat, which was Butt Midler, but she screamed, "Bah!" and sprang away from him, using a stack of pig food boxes as a staircase. Never let him take you alive, Liz Oates cheered as the young human's hand snatched at her stallmate's legs which were always just out of Sawyer's reach, as she sprung, surprisingly nimble for her condition. She sprang up the tower of old turnip boxes until she reached the top of the stack. She seemed to run out of escape plans. And so Butt Midler made a mighty leap and... Yes, now she's taking the thing seriously, Liz Oates crowed. The drink in her, and her in the drink.
You fell in a barrel of rum brandy.
The young human sank down onto a box of iceberg lettuce and rubbed his temples.
FM, welcome home. My mother is suing you for damages. Half your goats are gone, and the other half are drunk. Your homebrew is full of goat hair because one of the nannies fell into it.
Why is he talking to FM? Lady Baba asked from the ground. Human, Liz Oates bleated. I know you can't understand me, but know this. FM is not here. She is gone. Gone from this place. She left us in charge of a young Billy. A human Billy. Now, this young human Billy, he loved to talk about chupacabras and poetry. He talk and he talk and he talk. So I said to him, Human, talk less, drink more. Bah! Get me out of here! Butt Midler screamed, her head poking out of the top of the barrel of cherry brandy. Help her! Liz Oates bleated suddenly to Sawyer. "You're the one who's got hands!" Sawyer, though he heard only bleats, understood this well enough, and he began the awkward process of trying to fish the back end of the goat out of the brandy. "I'm resisting arrest," Liz Oates declared, and unceremoniously she laid down on Sawyer's farm boots. "Well, young man, it looks as though you have everything well in hand," Mama Chi-Chi said, pressing her way through to the door. "I'm going to talk to the only animal in this neighborhood who hasn't had any brandy yet."
Oasis, oh, I got friends in low places.
"Tell us more about your farm." Another cranberry juice and gin was pressed into FM's hands. "Well," FM hedged, "I'm not sure what you'd like to hear. How do you keep the pigs?" This was from a serious-faced young woman. "Well, the pigs are the hardest. The most important thing for pigs is they love to have their little trotters in the ground and dig in the mud and cover themselves in mud and swim." "Swim?" "Yes. I dig them a wallow and I keep it filled with water. They love going in the water." The serious-faced young woman asked, "Why do you say pigs are the hardest?" "Well, I keep pigs because I harvest the meat." The table of listeners sat back, suddenly serious. These were FM's new acquaintances at the karaoke bar. They had watched her sing "I Want to Break Free" and had bonded over having witnessed the upsetting spectacle of the poorly kept tigers in the cheap seaside circus. FM began, "I know you're all vegans, and I respect that. I really do." The table gulped collectively. "But a lot of people aren't vegans," FM went on. "I raise about 12 pigs a year. That's a year's worth of pork for 24 families. That's 12 pigs who get to be raised by their mothers and play with their brothers and sisters. They don't spend a day of their lives in a cage or on concrete floors. Each one has a name. The neighbors' kids come and scratch their backs with sticks. I hand feed them with food that would otherwise go to the landfill. And when they die, it's at home. And I make damn sure it's instant and they don't see it coming." FM took a drink and wiped her eyes. "Doesn't mean it's not hard. It's the hardest day of my year. But I believe it's the right thing to do." The table broke its tense silence with a collective nod. "It's just, we've never met anyone like you," said the serious-faced young woman. "I'm keeping those pigs out of the factory system, and I try to honor every life I'm responsible for." "Did you say you brew your own liqueurs?" asked one of the young people. FM grinned. "Elderberry liqueur, apple cider, cherry brandy." Her eyes sparkled and she tipped her cup back and drained it. "It's my witch's brew." "Another witch's brew for our new hero," a young man at the table yelled to the bartender, then leaned in. "Tell us more about the goats. I've always liked goats, but I grew up in the city. I only know about them from children's stories." FM leaned her cheek on her fist. Well, I just love them so much. They're the toughest ladies on the planet." Everyone leaned in. "My elder nanny goat, she once got the worst case of mastitis. After birthing 4 kids, 2 stillborn, the other 2 just so weakly and premature, the vet said she wouldn't live. But I knew she could make it." Grazzo floated in the dark, wet air, shimmering blue outside FM's cabin. He peered inside. The girl, Layla, had rolled up all the blankets covered with chocolate banana mash and thrown them into a pile. She seemed to now be feeding Pearl an entire large can of wet food, 1 spoonful at a time. Pearl was gratefully licking the wet food off the spoon and staring, lovingly, gratefully up at Layla.
I feel so bad for FM. All her porcelain goats are broken. And her nice blankets, Pearl. I'm not even sure if the washing machine can get all that banana mash out. And all her nice things.
Layla's voice trailed off.
Even this thing? I think it's called a VCR. It's smashed.
Grazzo squinted inside. The VCR was in fact FM's beloved antique FM radio system. He hissed a little to see it smashed on the ground like that.
And I'm not sure what's going on with the goats. Sawyer's supposed to be taking care of them, but he says a bunch of kids have been kidnapped. Although, now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure Archie has them trapped in a blanket fort.
Pearl looked up from the spoonful.
I think he does. I didn't see any kids out there today when I was out in the barnyard filming the greatest U-Snap video of all time.
I guess that's my cue, Grazzo thought, reaching up to bat his paw against the window pane. But to his irritation, his paw slipped right through the glass and the girl went on chattering to the dog. Grazzo groused, and then, with a flex of his mysterious ghostly muscles, he made the lights in the cabin flicker, and to make it crystal clear that it wasn't just the storm, he coaxed a little music from the broken radio. Pearl said, and buried her nose in Layla's lap.
Oh,
The girl said, looking around herself.
that's really spooky. It's okay, Pearl.
She stroked the dog and gulped.
I think...
She peered out into the night and saw exactly what she expected to see there.
that cat ghost has another quest for me. It's just the kind of day I'm having.
Grazzo flicked his tail to beckon her.
I understand, Pearl. You'd better stay here.
Layla smoothed out Pearl's blankets and kissed the top of the fur on the great white skull.
I'll make sure there's no open windows for that squirrel to come back in, okay?
Then got up to go back out into the storm.
Well, you know,
Layla said to the flickering blue form.
I'm glad there's a bit more to do. I mean, rescuing Pearl was a good quest and important, but it wasn't exactly spooky. I mean, because I've read so many really scary graphic novels, I've always been wanting to have a really scary adventure, so maybe...
I've never heard such kitten clatter, Grazzo muttered to himself. He flickered in and out of existence and turned to give her a non-corporeal scathing side-eye, which she might have picked up on if she had ever lived with a cat. Nonetheless, she stopped talking and picked up the pace. She followed the blue figure over and under the jingling fences, through FM's kale and pumpkin patch, past her elderberry tree and her black currant canes. And this trip was much longer, stumbling in the night and the rain, and on through the dark to a sprawling hedge of treacherous blackberries, where Layla stopped.
Where are we going?
She asked the ghost cat. He flicked his tail at her and indicated with his eyes, beyond here, beyond this hedge. Layla shaded her eyes from the rain and looked up. Visible in the cloud-diffused moonlight was the great decaying architectural feature of the neighborhood, the collapsing spine of the Westerly barn.
Oh, but I'm not supposed to go in there.
Grazzo narrowed his eyes at her.
I mean, there's this thing called a restraining order. I don't completely understand it, but I mean, I guess you could say we're having a family feud with this guy, Scott, who bought this place.
He stared back and twitched his tail in a way that Layla would have recognized irritation, had she ever known a cat intimately. And if she could have heard his inner monologue, it certainly would have been a salty, "Oh, I see, so you want a scary adventure, but not if there's a restraining order involved? Shall I get you a scary adventure that's perfectly legal, then?" Layla realized that he was standing in a sort of hole? No, a tunnel. A tunnel, low in the blackberries. A little hole punched by animals. Impatiently, the cat scratched at the mud with his back paws, or tried to, but his feet sort of slipped through.
Hey, if you could just walk through walls and stuff, How come you don't fall through the center of the earth and out the other side and just keep going and going into outer space forever?
Grazzo opened his mouth to soundlessly yowl the word "focus" at her, but his thunder was interrupted by a crack of blue lightning which backlit the great crumbling barn. And Layla was certain that from within, faintly across the distance, she heard the startled bleats of kids encountering lightning for the first time in their little springtime lives.
Wait, what? There really are kidnapped kids in there? So Sawyer was right about that. Huh. What a weird night. Well, I guess I have to go rescue them.
She yelped at Grazzo. He flicked his tail again and the thunder crackled overhead.
Okay. Okay, I can do this.
She got down on her hands and knees and crawled through the goat-made blackberry tunnel to the barn from which she was restrained.
Ugh, mud. Ow!
The blackberries pierced her knees and caught at her jacket, but when she stood up and found herself on Scott's property, there was no invisible force field, no police sirens, no intruder alert.
I still don't really understand how this restraining order thing is supposed to work.
Grazzo narrowed his eyes in impatience.
Okay, I'm coming in,
Layla said, and she headed right to the front door of the barn.
Oh, what? No, don't go in. Not the front door. Oh, kittens.
Layla had never been as comfortable with this old barn as Arcturix was. He was the one who'd really discovered it, and by the time he had, she was already old enough to feel the awkwardness of trespassing. Still, she'd made a few hasty excursions in with him, like a few weeks ago when he'd found her the wedding clothes. She certainly knew where the front door was. She would just let herself in, on the ground floor. But when she reached the front slider, she was surprised to see the ghost cat, her guide, floating in front of it with his tail puffed all up and his fur standing on its end.
No. Do human kittens understand no?
Mouth and paws all working, ghostly claws extending.
What?
Layla asked, squinting at him, and the blue light mouth was wide open. The little fangs were bared and the tongue was working at what was clearly...
Are you hissing at me now?
Grazzo's mouth and eyes grew silently wider and more frantic, and his claws batted the air.
But you told me to come in here.
She reached out for the handle of the door, grasped it, and began to pull the slider open. Just then, in the blue light glow of Grazzo's form, she saw something. She saw the deep, fresh gouges in the door right by the opening. Gouges which gave the immediate impression of having been made by a set of enormous claws dragging against the wood. And seeing the claw marks, her little brother's voice from hours before sounded in her head.
Don't go out there, Layla. There's a tiger out there.
She saw the fresh marks made by the blows of a hatchet, and she saw the new locks which had been installed on the doors. She stood still and stared at her ghost guide.
Is there really a tiger in there?
Grazzo opened his mouth in a silent, emphatic
Wow!
Oh, yay. And missing goats?
Wow!
So what do we do now?
Grazzo turned tail and floated around the building, and Layla followed. They came round the back, where Grazzo showed Layla the way to a high orchard ladder which leaned against an apple tree. Layla looked doubtfully at it.
I hate ladders.
Grazzo glared at her.
What? I'm not very confident with climbing.
Grazzo opened his mouth.
Right, okay. Supernatural mission, spooky adventure. Okay,
I think she's got it. Can I go back to sleep and stop doing chores now?
Up in the loft, Minerva was trying hard to keep the kids warm. Silver was shivering in a way Minerva didn't like. Gotina was curled up stubbornly in the curve of Ruby's bones, so it was up to Minerva to wrap her own body around them both as best she could. They had been this way for some hours now, with just the brief interruption of the ghost cat. Morale was low. Minerva had eaten as much of the cursed hay as she could possibly hold and encouraged the others to do the same. It would help keep them all warm, she'd explained, but only Gotina had eaten. Silver was too weak to eat. Laying there with the two of them, Minerva tried not to listen to the ragged sound of Silver's breathing. She listened instead to the sound of the rain on the barn roof. Gotina sighed, curling herself in tighter, and the sweetness of the little goat recalled to Minerva a sound her own mother used to make sometimes when she was little. A soothing, rhythmic, quiet little bleat. Meh, 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 sung on the out-breath. Minerva had never made a noise like that. It was a full-grown nanny goat noise, but she tried it now. A grunty little mama goat lullaby. Meh, meh, meh. It felt weird, but as she did it, she felt both kids heave deep sighs and lean more against her. She kept it up. And she noticed, too, as her consciousness hovered around a fitful sleep, that the parts of her that were covered in what she now thought of as Layla's lace shawl were warmer than the rest of her. I guess humans aren't totally crazy, she thought, and she spread the lace over Silver. I wonder if I should get more of this stuff. What good will it do? Silver's in a bad way. She needs more than warmth. She needs the vet. But how am I supposed to get her out of here? She's in no shape to travel, and anyway, I didn't know how to get her down from here when we were in perfect health, and what if there's more gates in the floor? What if that man comes back? What if? Who am I kidding? It's not if, it's when. When will the monster find the gates in the floor? When will the man come back? These dark thoughts were interrupted by a loud close by, right outside the smashed window. She had heard that thud once before. It was the sound of the creepy man's ladder bumping against the wall. She saw Gotina's eyes open in terror. Saw even Silver's exhausted eyes flutter. Minerva lifted her head, determined. She would butt him off the ladder, goat damn his evil whip. Gotina closed her little eyes and pressed her roan-spotted forehead against Ruby's skull and began whispering requests for help. Minerva gave a little jump and got to her hooves. "Go get the bastard," grunted a weak voice. "Give him hell. Give him hell from Silver." Stamping her hooves and warming up her head tosses, Minerva approached the window, every bristly goat hair standing on its end. She could hear him, ascending the ladder. She snorted once and thrust her head out the window, ready for battle. What she saw instead, who she saw instead, was a rescuer in the very form of Minerva's own heart's desire. Bah! Minerva's bleat poured out all her tenderest feelings, and the girl, Layla, halfway up the ladder, stopped climbing to look up. She looked directly into Minerva's eyes, and a dreamy smile washed over her face.
Goat Punzel, let down your goatee hair,"
she called up. Minerva had no idea what Layla was talking about, but she was here for it. When Layla arrived at the top of the ladder, she forgot her fear of heights because there was a goat there, waiting for her.
"What a sweet girl you are."
Layla forgot all caution and took both hands off the ladder to stroke the beautiful goat's cheeks.
"You're one of last year's kids, aren't you? Minerva, right? Oh, Minerva, you have a cut on your face."
Layla's heart thudded unpleasantly. She didn't like cuts or doctor problems of any kind.
"What happened to you?"
Bah! Minerva tried to explain everything at once.
"Was it?"
Layla went to grip the windowsill, but saw that it was covered with broken glass. She pulled her hand away from the glass like it was a hot stove, and the motion put her off balance. For a terrible moment, she wobbled on the ladder, her arms pinwheeling in the dark emptiness of the night air, and she felt space open up behind her, 3 stories down to the ground.
I'm falling!
Minerva sprang forward, and reaching her head out the window, she snatched in her strong caprine mouth the fabric of Layla's coat, and she pulled. This pull gave Layla the chance she needed to reach forward, grab the wooden sides of the window, and jump wildly inside. She fell to the floor of the barn and lay there, panting.
I almost died!
Minerva stood over her and began, so gently, nibbling at the girl's cheek and nose. The sensation was so tender, so ticklish, that Layla forgot her fear. She reached up and took the goat's soft muzzle in her little hands.
You saved my life, Minerva Goat.
"Bah," the goat answered. Layla let herself lay there a minute, recovering from the after-panic feelings. At length she sat up, switched her pocket flashlight on, and surveyed the room.
Oh, there's 2 more of you in here, and...
"Bah!" Goatina bawled when the light hit her.
Oh, sorry. Hey, why are you laying in a skeleton?
The goats didn't find a way to answer.
This is really creepy. Hey, are you all right? Are you injured?
Layla's flashlight had a handy toggle rope at the end of it, and she spent a moment fastening it to a downward drooping beam so that it functioned as an overhead lamp. All the while, the goat called Minerva never strayed from under the touch of Layla's left hand. But when the beam of the flashlight, swaying gently from the rafters, hit upon Silver in her pool of blood, Layla's left hand clenched around the fur of Minerva's spine.
Is that goat dead? No! I hate doctor stuff. And I just can't... I mean, this was not the supernatural adventure I was hoping for. I was thinking maybe I would have to find, like, a last will and testament hidden in a library book. Not blood stuff! I mean, why me? Couldn't Arcturus...
Crack!
Ow!
Layla looked down. The littlest goat, Goatina, had gotten up to butt her in the kneecaps.
What did you do that for?
Goatina only stared up at her, blinking sideways to aim one brown eye right at Layla.
That really hurt.
But Goatina had the girl's attention, and she turned to look significantly at Silver, who stirred, groaned feebly, and began shivering. Layla's big heart contracted.
It's times like this my mom really should have given me a real block of wood. Okay, she's definitely alive. Oh man, why is there so much blood? It's not even on the driven snow. I hate this. Okay, but why is no one else here to help? I guess this was definitely the mission the ghost cat called me out to do, but I hate doctor stuff.
Layla approached Silver. She fought with herself about whether she had to look at the gashes in the goat's side and flanks, and made herself look.
Okay, all right, you're breathing. Wait, are you breathing bloody foam? I heard that's really bad. Whenever a Russian princess or pirate dies, there's always bloody foam.
She inspected Silver's mouth, and Silver opened one eye, let out a quiet chuff of breath.
Okay, good, no bloody foam. What about, like, intestines spilling out? Oh, gross. That always happens when a samurai... Anyway...
She forced herself to take a quick glance at Silver's belly.
Okay, no intestines, I think. I'm not really sure what that would look like, but yeah, I don't see any. That's good. Okay, Goat, you're the silver one. Silver, is your name Silver? I think you're gonna make it.
Silver glared up at her and shivered.
Okay, keep the patient warm? I did a Girl Scout badge for first aid one time.
Layla took off her own coat and draped it around the goat. Then her head snapped suddenly up.
Wait a minute. Did a tiger do this to you?
Goatina answered for them. Bah!
Is the tiger still here?
The panic rose in Layla's voice.
Could it just, like, come back? Where is it?
Bah! Minerva said, stomping a hoof. commanding Layla's attention, then tapping meaningfully at the spot in the floor underneath a pile of boxes. And to Layla, the goat did this so significantly, so intentionally, that she felt the goat must be directing her attention to this spot.
It came through a trapdoor in the floor, and you guys drove it back down and shoved these boxes on top of it?
Bah! Goatina answered brightly. Then she rubbed Silver directly with her nose.
And Silver got these injuries battling it?
Bah! Bah! Said the two healthy goats together, and Layla said,
Wow, you guys are really brave.
Layla surveyed her patient.
Well, you still don't look good. Okay, this is weird. There's an old garage sale sign on this, skeleton you're hanging around with. Still not sure why you're lying on an old goat skeleton.
Goatina came forward and rubbed her cheek against the goat's skull bones.
Okay, well, maybe she's a relative of yours. That's weird, though. I'm actually sort of supposed to be having a garage sale tomorrow. Actually, I got the idea from this weird thing.
Layla stopped talking and stared into space, her eyes open and her mouth growing even larger with astonished comprehension.
Well, wait, there's this, Ouija board type thing? Okay, so...
Her eyebrows furrowed and her fingers wiggled silently in the air.
Just how many ghosts are there around here?
Bah! Goatina answered frantically, knocking her little horns between Layla and the skeleton and springing off her feet. Layla stared back and forth between Goatina, the garage sale sign, and the skeleton.
Do you think the ghost of this goat wants us to have a garage sale? Do you think that could be the supernatural mission?
Bah! Goatina bleated, if possible, even more frantically than before.
I guess there's a lot of stuff around here. These people had too many possessions, whoever they were.
Bah! It was Minerva's turn to bleat wildly. Layla looked eerily between them.
I just somehow get the feeling that you goats know all about this,
she said. There was a soft clunk then as Silver's head rolled down and her horns dropped softly to the ground.
She doesn't look good,
Layla said, clenching her fists and looking at Silver. The girl's gaze began to wander around the walls with their endless stacks of boxes and crates and things.
Well, we are in a barn. I wonder if there's any vet stuff in here. I bet there is.
Layla felt a bristling softness glide underneath her hand. She looked down to see the goat called Minerva staring up at her. And Layla, who was able to see romance where others saw only a patch of dandelions, drama where others saw only a raggedy old doll, a ghost cat where others saw only the driving rain. Layla read in Minerva's eyes kindness, determination, urgency. Layla could not doubt that those brown eyes understood her and the situation perfectly.
We have to go look for vet stuff, don't we? Right. Okay, well, I'm kind of scared. I'm sort of used to pretend stuff, so will you come with me?
Bah! Came the heartfelt reply. And Layla rightly understood this bleat to mean, I would follow you anywhere.
Aw?
Layla dropped to her knees and threw her arms around Minerva's neck and held the goat tight for a long moment.
Okay,
Layla said, getting back to her feet.
let's go find vet stuff.
And Grazzo, who did not really like to be seen in his ghostly form by human children or goats, had waited outside the window this whole time listening. Okay, he said to himself. I think. He was exhausted from the use of his ghostly powers. I think she's got things under control. I think, yes. And he felt himself called once again by the powerful, sleepy lure of his unearthly slumber. Listeners, thank you so much for being with us on this journey. And thank you for your patience as we put out these episodes, not really on the schedule we'd like to. Again, if you're in Bellingham, come and join us for the live show. This episode comes with a massive shout out to star actor Ursula Bucher. Wow, they killed it in the role of Layla. And I really believe that they hate doctor stuff. Thank you once again, as always, to the Steam Brass Band for their beautiful, flawless cover of Sweet Dreams. I could just listen to that over and over again, and I do. Thank you again to Myra Grass, a.k.a. Mandy Loughlin, for guest hosting this episode. Thank you to Johnny Bucher, Caleb Alden, Gabrielle Alden, and, of course, Ursula Bucher for their work. The Goat American Novel was written and produced by me, Hildy Festerling. Please come and give us a 5-star review on the podcast app of your choice, or share our podcast with a family that you might know. If you know of anyone going on a road trip this summer, I always think of this podcast as being just the right thing for a family on a road trip to listen to. So help us out that way. Thank you again to the musicians of the Electric Unicorn Studio, as well as Aaron Alden. We heard their voices for the first time singing on this episode. And it's funny to think that we recorded that little gem of singers almost 2 years ago now. And we've been waiting all this time to drop it right into that spot. Anyway, I hope you're all well. I hope you're taking care of each other and yourselves in these challenging times. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.